Episode of the Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Acorn 30.
Wait, that's our company.
Right. Although some people think we're a bit nuts, we work with businesses to help them grow into mighty oaks through creative campaigns, amazing websites, and funky branding. Check us out at acorn30.com. On this episode, we're talking about Facebook. Everything about Facebook, because everyone is talking about Facebook. We're talking about Cambridge Analytica. We're talking about people deleting Facebook. But more importantly, we're talking about what this means to you, the small business.
Creativity sells. Applying the right creative at the right time is the recipe for great marketing. The Marketing Podcast looks at marketing news and finds the secret ingredients that make great marketing.
Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Brendan Quigley.
And I'm Heather Watson.
How are you?
I'm great.
It's a good day.
It's a great day.
We say that every time. Have you noticed? Every time.
Every day is a great day, Brendan.
Yeah, well. So, have you deleted Facebook?
No. Have you?
No.
Is today the day?
I think so.
Hashtag delete Facebook?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. Did anyone actually watch the whole testimony?
I'm sure somebody did. He did.
Yeah, I didn't.
I
I looked it up after.
Yeah, I sure as heck have a lot more to do than watch it. But
it did produce some of the best memes I've seen in a long time. So
there have been some fantastic memes coming out of the last couple of days of testimony.
And some questions, like, do senators understand how the internet work?
Yeah. What is the internet?
Yes. They had some funny questions from what I saw.
Yeah. Today we are talking about Facebook because that's what everybody seems to be talking about today. And we want to be part of this conversation because it's important not just for users, but more importantly for our listeners anyways, is important for businesses and marketing and how that affects them. So let's jump in.
Okay, so the first article we have here is from the Globe and Mail. And it's funny enough, the title's changed since I looked at it. But basically it is what is Cambridge Analytica and what did it do?
Right.
So I don't know how closely you've followed or our listeners have followed what's happened. And there's been a lot of confusing. It took me a while to actually figure out who broke the law and how they broke the law. But ultimately, Cambridge Analytica made a little app for Facebook. People filled out the survey to find out what Star Wars character they were or what. I don't know what the app actually was. It collected data in the way that Facebook was designed, except they went a little bit further and took that data and sold it on.
Yeah, and Brendan, we should probably, I was on doing the radio show earlier this week and did a little breakdown on this whole conversation as well. So it might be good. We'll put that one out in the next day or so too to tie it all in, and you and our great listeners can have a listen to it. But exactly that. There was a researcher who created a game, and this was back when policy, the API, terms and services allowed this kind of thing to happen. He gathered a whole bunch of information, and it was those games where it was like it lined up 5 or 6 friends, and it was like, which game is most likely to end up in jail, or which friend is most likely to own a Mercedes, which friend, like those kinds of questions. And I think it was like back 2011, 12, maybe even 13 that happened. And all kinds of information was gathered, and basically 300,000-ish people's accounts were then populated with all this information or taken from Facebook. That person, that researcher on their own, then went to go work for Cambridge Analytica and took that research with them, with him. And that was in violation of the terms of service. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't a hack. It wasn't a breach. I guess it was a breach to a degree, but not where...
A breach of trust.
A breach of trust, yeah. Exactly. And kind of in the meantime, after they had, the terms of service changed from when that game existed to when the person moved, but it still was in breach of the terms of service. The problem then existed when... Facebook became aware of it. They said, delete the information, delete the data. Cambridge Analytica said, you got it, but they didn't. And then they continued to use the data. And that's kind of where we are in terms of what happened. So all the while, people are having this conversation around, well, how much does Facebook really know? Mm-hmm. And what are we doing to protect people's data? And recognizing that Facebook is a global organization, a global platform, privacy expectations vary from country to country. You know, what we value for privacy as Canadians is different than in the U.S. and different from Europe and different from Russia and different from China, and that's important to recognize. And how do you create these blanket international companies, right?
And I guess too, it's important. The illegal thing was the passing it off to a third person. You know, the way Facebook operates and the way the app operates is normal. Like, we've seen that a lot, actually, in Facebook. I see it all the time still. So the illegal thing was really just the passing on to a third party.
Right. So now Zuckerberg has been the last 2 days testifying to Senate about, you know, how this whole thing works, as Senate is really trying to understand not just Facebook, but as you said earlier, Brendan, the internet.
The internet. But I see what's difficult for me working in the industry is people talk about the scandal, and I'm like, this is how it works. Like, I knew how this works. I actually don't click on things sometimes if I don't want to see their ads.
Yep.
You know, like I get how it works, but I understand that not everyone, you know, works in it on a daily basis and understands those things. And I think this particular scandal, because Cambridge Analytica did political work, kind of resonated. And that's what caused the whole Senate deal. Like the whole having, like, this has been going on for a while. And I also think that companies like Facebook and Google have been doing a pretty good job of, like, keeping it out of the news, keeping it quiet, only making incremental changes so as not to be like, shock and awe, we can track everyone everywhere all the time with all their data, because they knew that regulations could threaten the business model that they've built. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of, and we'll probably talk about it again, but what comes out of.
Yeah, and we're already seeing, I mean, I'm like, as a company, Facebook has done all the right things since this scandal broke. I mean, there was a long period of silence that the Facebook leadership team, Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg, were being criticized for. But when they came out and spoke, they did start acting quickly, because as we know, when there's a security breach of any time, whether, like, regardless of how it happens, a hack or otherwise, and obviously this wasn't a hack, but it takes a lot of knowledge just to figure out where that point was and what went wrong, and to track the timeline and to figure out how do we fix the gap, right? And that's a challenge in and of itself. But when they began to speak, they said, we are going to be doing an audit of all the third-party apps that are using our API, using our technology, and how they're using it, and making sure that they're all complying within the terms of service. Since then, there have been a couple of other, or several other, I'm aware of 2 profile ones that have been pulled completely. Like they
you're talking about.
apps.
Yeah, no, I've heard of that.
That have been accessing the Facebook API wrongly, and they've been banned basically from using Facebook, because so now it's like, what's happening with those companies? And what did they do? Everybody's still focusing on this whole Cambridge Analytica thing, but and some of those, I know some people who received notification from Facebook about, you know, hey, you had this Facebook app and they breached, we're in violation of, and, you know, we're fixing it. So I don't know what fixing means. And Zuckerberg said, hey, I'll talk to people, right? So I see you're pulling up this really cool study that we have too that was done. So these are Canadian stats that give us audience insights with Canadians' relationship with Facebook's post the Cambridge Analytica. So this study was done not too long ago.
April 4th and 5th.
There we go, April 4th and 5th. So
Audience Insights.
I can't.
It's the company.
Yeah, I can't. Why
did
can't I find it?
It's
now?
down at the bottom.
There we go.
Audience Insights.
Here we are. And it seems like 74% of Canadians are aware of Cambridge Analytica. Like, they know that there's an issue, but whether or not it's actually deciding whether they should be deleting Facebook or not, or trust Facebook, I'm just skimming it over.
43% took some action as a result.
Right.
So that means 57 did nothing. I am in the 57.
I'm totally in the 57.
Yeah.
Totally in the 57. 27% changed their privacy settings. 23% have reduced their use, while 3% have deleted Facebook.
Segue alert. Dun, dun. No?
No. And it does break it down by age group. Interestingly, what I'm seeing here is the larger group that took action were the 18 to 34-year-olds.
Which is odd to me, because earlier on it said that more 55 plus were aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think 18 to 34-year-olds are that group that really value their privacy and don't want, and, and are aware of ad blockers and,
Yeah, right.
and then I think about, I've made fun of the proverbial mother-in-law who don't even really understand what Facebook is, but they're using it anyways, and they've heard about this Analytica thing, but they're just not taking the time to understand it to do anything about it, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, people are somewhat less likely to engage with other brands on Facebook now. And this is where it matters for businesses, right?
Mhm.
Like, so anybody who's advertising, and while, like, for the people who haven't deleted their Facebook accounts, what does that mean for the advertiser? What does that mean for your engagement in advertising? Lots of companies have pulled their advertising in light of all of this, and that's got to be hurting Facebook right now. Smaller businesses are still boosting posts on events and doing their stuff, and are people less likely to click on those ads? And we're seeing that people are less likely to click on sponsored posts or advertisements for more information.
Which is unfortunate because sponsored posts and advertisements didn't do this. It was the apps.
Right.
It's those apps that ask you to give permission for the app to access your information, and we've all seen it. Your email and your profile information, or your friends list and your whatever. And those are the questions that it has asked in the past, and you hit allow. I do know that Facebook has now cut off the friends, so you can no longer volunteer your friends list.
Right.
And that was one of the things that Mark said in the testimony for the Senate. That was like, we used to do this and we don't, as a direct result, which is kind of interesting because I did feel weird sometimes saying allow you just all my friends' names now.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I think a lot of people who are doing the allow aren't even reading and paying attention, right? They're just click, 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 go.
This is it.
And that's the way it is. So it's interesting, when we're working with businesses and they're trying to decide how to spend their advertising dollars, are we investing in Facebook right now or are we not? I don't mean financially investing. I mean investing their advertising budget in Facebook. When there's 65% of Canadian users who are less likely, either somewhat or much less likely, to be clicking on sponsored posts or advertising for more information, that has to impact. But by the same token, you're paying for clicks.
So you get what you pay for.
Right. And in that case, if you have something, I'm always, particularly when we're talking about pay-per-click advertising, whether it's in Facebook or any other platform, if you have something that you can communicate that's giving some brand awareness, if you're doing an event or you're just trying to get brand recall, pay-per-click is great, because as long as your brand is floating before their screen as they're flipping through, you're not paying for them unless they touch on that ad. So it still may be a good investment to buy advertising.
Yep.
I don't know. I would be curious to hear who has and what have people bought through clicking on advertising on Facebook or Instagram for that matter, because I think it is more of a brand awareness piece for many people. And, you see those, I always get them that say, things about, focus on my birthday month, and you see shirts that say I was born here and this and that. And it's really, and they look horrible because it's
generated. Yeah.
Generated. The photo of the shirt that they're trying to sell me is just got text.
Hasn't even been printed.
Yeah. Why would I even try and click on that? Why would I even care to engage with that? One of the things that Zuckerberg said during the Senate hearings, a couple of, I think it was the first day, that it's more about quality of ads, and they deliver quality ads. And if you deliver quality ads that are tailored to the audience, then you'll get people who are responding to it. And they need that data to be able to provide quality ads. And that's a service then, because they're not weeding through ads that they don't want to see. Mm-hmm. But I can't.
Relevant ads are good.
They should be. Yeah. Relevant. I shouldn't say quality. Relevant is the word. Relevant ads are super good. But by the same token, in Facebook, I can't say that I personally have seen a really relevant ad. From
one marketer. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
As in, that's what it is because it just gets hijacked.
It does. Yeah. And a lot of the advertising I see is geared towards other, it's people who are selling marketing products to marketers, because that's what I've identified as somebody in Facebook. So I'm not interested in buying the program. the 12 steps to better social media today. It's like, I got this, man.
The one thing your agency should be selling for
Yeah,
success.
yeah,
Services, not information products.
yeah. More training, great.
The other thing is Facebook's not going anywhere. Like, yes, this must be hurting the bottom line somewhere for Facebook, but WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and what's the other one? I'm blanking. There's
Twitter?
No, there's another product that Facebook owns.
Oh, that Facebook owns.
Very big, very all Facebook, So I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm not on Facebook, but you're on Instagram. So you're on Facebook, you know? So Facebook's not going anywhere, but it will be interesting to see what changes in the long term. And if regulation comes in that starts to handicap the ability to target, because that's been so ubiquitous. That's the way targeted ads work.
Okay, yes. And I want to, here's my little rant. Like, the people who are in shock and awe about how much data that the advertisers are able to garner from your surfing habits and from what you've fed into Facebook based on your age, your place of birth, your language, all that demographic information. And people are like, oh my goodness, I had no idea they were doing that. First of all, you should have had an idea that they were doing that because I don't know for how long we've been saying, if it's free, you are the product, right? That's number one. But secondly, this has predated Facebook. This has predated the internet. My early days of doing focus groups with people was to find out who the target audience is. And if you are, 18 to 34 years old, a male who prefers, to hang out and listen to this type of music, or you live in this geographic area, that's customer demographics. And if I talk to enough people and find out that males are of that profile, I'm going to find other places where males of that profile are hanging out so I can push my product to. And
credit cards, loyalty cards. I'm trying to think of the other things that predated the internet.
Right. And credit cards are loyalty cards are the worst, and we've talked about, I think before, a story where a mother found out that her daughter was pregnant because she was getting, alerts from the drugstore loyalty card program, and she's buying, she went and bought a pregnancy kit, and now all of a sudden she's getting formula advertising sent to her and coupons and things. And this, whatever information you're feeding into people, and even print coupons are a way of tracking people to agree, because you're advertising in a women's magazine, and all of a sudden you're getting a 50% return rate on your coupons. That
and they do it to postal codes as well, where they'll assign a certain average home income to a postal code. I know it's a little that's a little nicer to hear because it's more aggregated, but this kind of thing's happened, and technology is just enabling it to continue.
And because we're in the Sharesy world where everything, from what I had for lunch to the fact that my kid has graduated from school to we're feeding all of this information into the machine. So it's just getting more specific because we're giving it better data. But data tracking and analysis and using it to sell to you isn't a new concept. It's just got more refined. So shock and awe aside, you're the product. Marketers, we're trying to sell to you, and from a business perspective, from a marketer perspective, we want to be able to use that data. We think that you love the product, the consumers love the product, assuming that you're your target customer. You need to know about it, and how do we reach you? It's through targeted advertising, right? So, my rant's over.
Do you know who's not the product?
Who?
Tesla.
Okay.
Well, technically, Tesla is a product. I should have segue alerted a second time.
Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
It's a double segue.
Segue alert. So, in the wake of this scandal, what happens? Well, of course, someone tweets Elon and says, delete SpaceX page on Facebook if you're the man. Elon said, I didn't realize there was one, will do. And he deleted SpaceX's.
I didn't realize there was a
Facebook page for SpaceX and Tesla.
Okay, the Facebook page.
I
didn't know there was Facebook.
No, and then he went and he deleted it.
There you go.
So I don't know if that encourages you to go out and delete it. One of the smart guys decided to delete it.
A lot of people have been jumping ship, obviously Joe Public have been jumping ship, but I've heard, and I can't remember some of the names, so I don't want to misquote or misrepresent, but big CEO type people of other tech companies have dropped Facebook in light of all of this. And
But,
I
like,
wonder
has-
if it's a little political, because it's
Yeah.
like, if we can sing Facebook, we'll do better on our other
And-
equally damning projects.
Yeah, right.
You know?
And so the question here too is, like, he deleted the SpaceX page. He didn't delete, like, does he have a personal Facebook account?
Yeah, who knows?
I like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's more out of respect for potentially the followers of SpaceX than it is for the company or for himself.
And that's knowing who your followers are, because
Yeah.
people who are into SpaceX are people who probably know a whole lot about technology and that it's being used and how it's being used against them, have ad blockers in place, are
This is
using
it,
the
yeah.
tools, and just don't buy into it, right?
Yeah, and so I guess he's kind of removed a data point for Facebook. So, you know, if Facebook knows that SpaceX is the space page and these people like that page, then they are interested in space. It's like the page is kind of a data point, you know?
Yep.
I doubt small businesses will have this issue. Like, I don't think you should run out and delete your Facebook page for your business in solidarity with Elon, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think small businesses should be looking at whether or not they should continue to invest advertising dollars in marketing efforts if the engagement isn't there. And your numbers should show that. And if you haven't looked at your numbers in the last 2 weeks, look at your numbers.
Yeah.
Because you may see like you're throwing money into the machine, not realizing that you're not getting the same ROI because consumers' views have changed. So you may have been getting a 50% or 30% or 10% ROI on whatever it is that you're advertising on Facebook, and now all of a sudden that's dropped off. Turn it off for a little while.
Yep.
Right? Or change it.
And wait.
Yeah.
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 So we've kind of answered this question, but the overall question of this episode is, what does this have to do with marketing for my small business?
Right.
We've got some points for small businesses, but it's like, what does data mean?
What does data mean for small business?
Yeah.
So it's funny because I talk to a lot of small businesses who are using Facebook for advertising purposes, and they don't use the data the same way because they don't know the data's there. The data's there, and they can go in and use the business Facebook for Business dashboard if you're purchasing advertising and you've got a business page. The data is there that you can look at, but a lot of people find it really complicated to look at. So what does this mean? It means it's there. Use it. Look at it. It means that you should be assessing and comparing your advertising campaigns, if not year over year, at least in the last 6 weeks, to see if this whole Cambridge Analytica thing has had any impact on your engagement. Because if it's dropped, as I said earlier, turn off your advertising for a little bit to see how consumer views are changing. Pay attention to the fact that consumer views are changing. Maybe shift some of that budget over to Instagram if you want to do online social media kind of advertising. Recognizing, of course, Instagram advertising is also the same as Facebook.
It's Facebook, yeah. But your users don't necessarily know that. Not that you're trying to take advantage, but it might work better for you right now.
I think users feel that, users, even if they do know it, probably feel that Instagram is safer because it hasn't got a decade's worth of information, because it just hasn't been around. It's got youth on its side. But secondly, it doesn't have all the groups and the sharing. It's not easy to be able to have friends tag. Like, you're not tagged in things. Well, you are, but you aren't. It has less data. It may have data in terms of what I like and what I'm sharing and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have data on what school I went to and, what my zodiac sign is, all that kind of stuff. Well, maybe they do, actually, because they would probably have to put my month.
If you signed in with Facebook.
If you sign in. So that's the other thing, too, just from a user perspective, flipping back over. I've never been that person to use Facebook to sign into anything. I've always created my own password and used my email to sign in. It's a pain because it's an additional password to remember, but by the same token, it's always helped me in my mind feel like I'm keeping Facebook out of the rest of my world, whatever that is. Instagram allows you to sign in separately, but maybe you want to move over it. Like I say, I think users feel that the advertising there is less invasive because Facebook has less information about the user.
So I've got another article here from the Financial Post, and it said for small businesses, there's no excuse for poor data security. And they've got about 4 points here that I thought were really good to go over in light of everything. So the first one is my business is too small. And you do hear this. You know, you've got a small business that is really small. Maybe you've got 20 clients and you're thinking, who cares about me? Like I keep their records, et cetera, et cetera. But the article points out that, cyber criminals take the path of least resistance. You know, they'll try all the doors.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Pretend I'm a member of Senate, if you will, and tell me what cybersecurity is.
Wait, I grab my water. I drink my water.
That's right.
I put my water down. Sorry, Zach.
Yeah, let me tell you about what the internet is. No, but kidding aside, right?
Yeah.
Like, because for a lot of small businesses that I talk to, they are really good at whatever their production is. If they're a restaurant, they're great at being a restaurant.
Yeah.
If they are a manufacturing shop, they're really great at making parts. They don't even know what the term cybersecurity is. So what does cybersecurity, to me, I think of big banks and government. What does cybersecurity even have to do with a small business?
Some hacker, multiple monitors,
yeah,
clicking away.
Yeah. So just pull it back a little bit, because my business is too small is this first little piece.
No, that's fair. And so cybersecurity could encompass a number of different things. Cyber just means online, internet, technology, that kind of stuff.
Robots.
Robots, if you have robots in your business, that's really cool. But it could be as simple as your Wi-Fi. Like, do you offer free Wi-Fi at your coffee shop? Yeah.
Yep.
And you do. Okay, great. Do you have a POS system that's connected to the internet? Oh, you do. Are they on the same network? Oh, they are. And so you're giving potential people who come into your business access through your network to your POS system. Does that sound like it's secure? No.
Maybe not.
So that's like one practical example. The other example is, where are you storing your so back to the coffee shop, where are you storing your books for your coffee shop? Is it on your personal computer? Okay, great. Small coffee shop, you're a small business, right? Do you have a password on your computer? Is your computer connected to that same Wi-Fi? And then you can think of all the different things that would come from that. Do you store things online?
What are the things that we're storing? We're storing credit card information. We're storing sales information. We're storing customer database information potentially.
Yeah, the customer database is
secret
big.
recipes if I'm a coffee shop potentially.
The customer one's big, right? Like if you're storing someone's name and address, or if you're just even storing someone's name and phone number, maybe your POS system sends them text message, receipts, emails, credit card information. These are all things that someone could use to basically steal someone's identity, or to take advantage of their identity, or to figure out a password to their computer.
Or maybe they just want to mess with you, because some people do that.
Well,
like they're not looking to breach to cause
just for the lulz
harm, but just for the lulz and to see if they can. And that's still a breach, and there's responsibility of ownership on the business owner, right? Okay.
Yeah. So
thank you for just making it a little bit more simplified
the
for
aside,
me.
yep.
Yeah. So carry on the list. So the first one was my business is too small.
Too small. So basically, these cyber criminals will, just try all the doors. I heard a story of garage door openers using the same frequency. And so the criminals will just go down the street hitting the button, and if that one opened, that's the one they robbed.
Right. Right.
And
you see that with people who are trying to break into cars.
This is it.
Right? Just start pulling on handles in the parking lot,
there you go.
You're going to find one and then just go.
And so if there's a weak point in your business, if someone stumbles upon it, they're going to take advantage of it. So it's important that not to think that your business is too small. The next one is data security is too expensive. And this is the second myth in the article. And that is true. Data security can get expensive. But if you have a breach, I guarantee it's going to be that much more expensive. If you have to deal with the fact that your client database was stolen and one of your clients got their identity stolen, it's going to cost you if you're found at fault. So you need to.
So there's financial liability because you could be sued.
Yeah.
You could be charged
you could lose your
potentially.
business.
It's fraudulent. You lose your business. It would shut down your business if you're an online store.
But especially if it's neglect, like if you just didn't do it, that's where the
lawsuit, right?
You get blamed for that.
And there's also even goodwill. And we've seen this with big companies. I know we're talking about small business, but like big companies that have had data breaches, and they have to communicate to their customers that there's been a data breach. And now people aren't necessarily sure that they want to do business with them again, right?
Yep, and that's real. That's a real one.
Yeah, so you lose the goodwill and the trust that your customers have.
The third one is I have no idea where to start. So as a small business, you're like, how do I even go about? Like, even in me talking here, how many different examples did I come up with that were like completely different?
Yep.
Your Wi-Fi, your business
POS,
books,
your book,
yeah.
yep.
So I really do think that like the customer data is the most important thing, because
With customer data, just for my own peace of mind, you're also meaning credit cards, right?
Yeah.
Not just my email address.
No, yeah, and that's because they entrust it to you, and this is in some ways the crux of the whole Facebook thing is we entrusted Facebook with data, and then Facebook didn't really do their job.
Yep.
You know, so when the first step, so I had no idea where to start. The first place to start is really, really think, and we've talked about this before, about what data you're collecting, and why you're collecting it, and what you're using it for. And if you don't need it, take steps to like securely delete it after it's gone.
Or don't collect it at all.
Or
if
don't
you can
collect it at
not
all.
Collect it.
Because the less you have, the less liability you have. The next step is to conduct a security audit and like really look at all the data that you have. And you might have data that like you don't even realize. Like if you've got a router in your business, in the coffee shop, it's keeping track of the MAC addresses of every device that connects. And you might not even realize you have that data, but it's there and it is your responsibility to take care of it. And basically, in an increasing number of cases, businesses are just deciding they don't want to store this data. So if you do have an online store and you don't want the headache or the worry of thinking about how am I going to store credit cards, use a third party. And there's some great ones. PayPal and Stripe come to mind. Both those companies, that's like their company is built on the security of those things. Mm-hmm. So you can still do your due diligence, but basically pay them for the use of their service. And then the last one is my priority is my customer experience. And you hear this from small businesses. It's like, my focus is on the customer experience. It's basically I don't have time to do those other less important things.
That, or I want to make sure there's as less friction as possible between me and my customer. So we want to, that extra little security step, we'll just skip that because it'll be easier for our customers to do business with us.
Like snapping a picture of a regular's credit card so you can charge it when they're not. That's terrible.
Right. And I mean, I even think about like some places that we've gone into where they don't use proper secure storage for credit. Like they're not using a POS system. It's like, they send out a few invoices every month. And it's like, I've got my credit card, my customer's credit card written down in a notebook or on a notepad or, that kind of thing. And that's just that's not fair. It's it's convenient for the customer, but does the customer realize that it's just sitting on a Post-it note on your computer monitor?
Yeah. So basically, the worst customer experience you can give your customers allowing their identity to be stolen or money to be stolen or even a personal piece of information. I think of doctors' offices and dentist offices and anyone who's dealing with medical records. Like this has been a big deal for them for a long time, Even dealing with the bank recently, I had to email them some documents. And they sent me this crazy elaborate secure document transfer thing just to send them documents. Yeah,
our accountant does that too. And we deal with a small accounting firm, and anytime I need to upload my financial stuff for to send the bookkeeping in to the accountant, they give me a unique link I have to log into, and it goes into wherever. I'm trusting it. I'm assuming it's going into CSIS or something.
Well, if the front door's that strong, right?
At the front, it says my information going to you. It's not, I have to be that secure. Nobody knows I'm sending it except for you.
So the last thing I would add, it's not in the article, but basically, if you're a small business, and even if you're a roofer to a coffee shop to a professional who's providing lawyer services or something, and you have any doubt about what you're doing with your customers' data or even with your personal data when it comes to the business, find someone who knows and get them to consult with you for a little bit. Because 20, 30 an hour's worth of consulting now could save you a lawsuit down the road, especially in this climate of potential security regulations. We went through it with can spam, where it was suddenly we had to have certain things in emails, or you were liable for that. You could get in trouble. And so there was a bit of a scramble there, but luckily third parties sort of intervened. There's not going to be like a single third party that's going to be able to intervene to take care of all your data needs. So definitely, if you don't know where to start, or if you don't know how big your situation is in your business, find someone who can help you.
Yeah. And just to that about the cost, you say a few hours worth of work at 20, 30, 40, even $100 an hour to charge some, or to be billed. This same article in the Financial Post is linking to another article where Uber had a data breach affecting 57 million users. And Uber actually paid the hackers $100,000 to destroy the stolen information.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Somebody may take it just to mess with you, right? Like, it's not like they want to actually effectively blackmail you with your own information. So, pay now or pay big time later kind of thing.
Yeah. Favorite things.
This
is a good one.
This has been my favorite thing for a very, very long time. And it's very fitting because we're talking about security, is 1Password. 1Password is a app, a web app.
Yeah.
That's basically, we see these, it's like, as I said before, I create new accounts for everything. I don't sign in with Facebook. And having to remember passwords, besides my place of birth or my mother's maiden name, I need something that's, that's secure because I have so many passwords, I don't want to use the same one. So LastPass, that's a competitor.
That is a competitor.
Yep. To 1Password. 1Password has the password generator, and it has an app right on my computer where once I remember that one single main password that's like a big one and super secure and only in my head and not written down, I can click on a key and it will take me to my banking website and let me log in. Take me to my social media account and let me log in. I don't even see my passwords when I type them in. Like I don't even, like, once they're in the system, I click on Twitter and it will automatically drop my login credentials into the Twitter login page, all blurred out, and it's great. It's a Canadian company, which we love because we're in Canada. They because of that specifically, though, they're using under Canadian laws, which we have heard other companies, Canadian companies, where they've had breaches and problems, and because typically these companies are based, say in the U.S., but their servers are in heaven knows where, because 1Password's all Canadian, they're all under the same kind of law umbrella, right? So we know that if there is an issue, we're all still under the same Canadian law. What else do you like it for? I mean, it's
really secure. So yes, we remember 1Password on a daily basis, but that's because we've authenticated our devices. So when you have to set up a new device with 1Password, it gets nerdy. And it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has like kind of that backup plan in place if you lose or forget your major password, your main access password. And it's not just for like social media accounts. Like they've got different categories too, right? So you can enter in your credit card information, which is a little bit different because it's more than two fields, right? It's got your number and your expiry date and the number on the back and all that kind of stuff. It has even secure notes, which I've thrown a few things in every now and then just because it like doesn't fit the form, but it's like, I might have to refer to this some point in time in the future,
We use the team version as well. So we've got what they call vaults for different levels of teams. So passwords that maybe only I need, so my personal vault, and then client passwords that the team will need to access. But then we can have, internal passwords for, say, HR or finance or things like that that's separate from the team members. And again, it's like adding security to your security, only giving people access to what they need access to.
Yeah. And again, it's most small businesses are using like, I see those old telephone directory print, like the address telephone number books sitting on their desk, and that's their password log.
Or the sticky notes in the drawer.
Or the sticky notes. Under the keyboard, inside people's cell phone cases.
On the monitor.
I mean, it's all fine and good if your office is locked and you're the only person who's ever in there. But even then, it doesn't make sense. But then what ends up happening internally is, I need the password for the Twitter account. And they just hand over the piece of paper with the password on it. And how many other people, when's the last time they've changed it? And how many people have access to that? And internally, like Brendan said, none of our team know passwords because we just click on the thing, it populates it.
And they would have to to memorize them.
Oh yeah,
They're crazy.
Yeah, so we should talk about that though, because you can choose your own password, right?
Yeah,
Like if you're importing in for the very first time and you've got passwords that are kind of assigned, if you will, you can use your own passwords, of course. But as we continue to use the tool, we just use the password generator, and we can choose whether or not we want, 24 characters, alphanumeric, symbols, numbers, because as we all know, when we're trying to set them up, the rules are different for every single account that you're trying to set something up for. They're like, oh, no numbers, no symbols. You can turn those off or you can turn them on. You can make the passwords longer or shorter. So we end up with these ginormous passwords that we would never even try to remember.
There's another really cool feature built into the app, and it's called Watchtower. And so basically, if there's been like a password breach at a company, that company will be flagged in your account, and it'll tell you to go change those passwords.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then you can also look at weak passwords. So if you've got a bunch of passwords that aren't considered strong, it'll list those so you can log in and go change those. It'll also tell you where there's duplicate passwords that are 3 years old, 1 to 3 years old, 6 to 12. Like it'll sort of let you audit your passwords.
Existed.
There you go.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And it is available on everything. Like we should
Literally
say that
everything.
on everything. Like you can get it like an extension in Chrome if you're using Chrome. It's available in iOS. It's available on Android.
I have to say the Android app is amazing. If there's a password field, you touch the fingerprint sensor and it logs you in. This is like third-party websites, and it's really good. And
Yeah.
I think with the new iOS, there's 1Password integration at that level as well.
iOS 10 announced it back in the fall. I haven't seen it roll out yet, but I don't pay too much attention. But maybe it's there, and I just have been using it, and it was so seamless I didn't notice either. And I don't use it as much on my phone as I do on my computer. So yeah, that's 1Password. I mean, it's a paid product. Like you do pay for a subscription, but it's so affordable if you think about what the alternatives are.
If you have more than 10 passwords, do it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even remember what we pay for it. It's like per user.
Oh, we should get them to guess how many passwords we have. We have a lot.
Oh, we have a lot.
Like a lot. Well, I'm hyping it up now.
Yeah. Tweet us.
How many passwords do you think Acorn 30 has?
At @marketingpod_.
I'm not going to announce
question
it.
of the day.
If someone gets close, I'll say you're close, but I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Exactly.
Should we announce it the next show?
Sure.
Okay. Speaking of the next show, I think that's done. We're it. That's a wrap. If you guys want links to all this stuff, jump over to themarketingpodcast.ca. You'll find it in the show notes. You'll see how to get involved with use 1Password. It's so funny.
There
you go. And then some of the articles that we're talking about today as well. That's it.
That's it.
Well, for the Marketing Podcast, I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
Thanks for listening.